the famous Jerry Hannon commentary, and Roaring Bull. Roaring Bull comes by me. So the parachute didn't even get time to shoot out. Roaring Bull beat me. People love that commentary, but I can't say I enjoy it as much.
Slán Give Galair.
Oh,
That's good. Not bad, yeah.
Slán Give Galair. This is a stitch-up job, isn't it? Get the English guy on the podcast and then give him the only Gaelic name in the race.
I'm sure if we win it, we'll bring you out for a pizza. Ollie.
Pizza? Jeez, I don't know about you, Barry, but I like a bit of caviar myself.
But Jane, you're off the team. You're off the team.
Hello and welcome back to the latest edition of Inside Track Ireland, the racing podcast brought to you by William Hill, the best value bookmaker out there. And we're talking all of the talking points for this week. Barry Geraghty and I, Jane Mangan. It's the 27th of March. There is much to discuss. And Barry, I love this time of year because we're in transition mode. There's turf racing back on the flat. So much still to discuss in terms of National Hunt. We're going to catch up with Paul Nolan, the Wexford trainer, who's a number of good horses in his care. We're going to bring him onto the show early doors. We're going to talk Albert Einstein, Constitution Hill. We're going to go from Maidan to Doncaster, back to Downpatrick. And of course, we'll have a little brief reflection on Sir Gino as well. But Barry, how are you? At time of recording, we're currently Friday morning. There's much to discuss.
There is, Jane. Yeah, well, there's obviously lots coming up with jumping, but yeah, the flat is creeping in as well. So yeah, good bit going on. But I suppose Fairyhouse and Aintree are on the horizon, so lots to look forward to those. But I look forward to chatting with Paul Nolan too. Now Paul's a great character, good company, and he'll always have a story or two to tell.
Yeah, he's going to be an easy interview because just Paul could do our job. He's fantastic and a real good character, and he's in the game nearly 30 years now. I did have a little look. 1996 he started training. You're right, we have to touch on the Aintree Grand National because of course we've had the latest forfeits from there. We've had a couple of riders confirmed for various horses for Liverpool. There's also the launch of the Fairyhouse Irish Grand National that you have a very good history in. We have a number of different talking points, both positive and negative, but I think very early on we're going to get on Paul Nolan and get his views on his season, his participation in the William Hill Eachway Extra Challenge series that he's doing actually very well in, and some future targets for his stable stars. And as ever, before we kick on with the show, I just want to ask, if you haven't already done so, head over to the App Store to download the William Hill app. It's super easy. And with that in mind, we can now kick on with the show and get on Paul Nolan. He's having a good season. He's got some good horses in his yard, and he's currently sitting second in the William Hill Eachway Extra Series, which, if he stays in that position, is going to be quite a lucrative prize for him. I'm looking forward to hearing some tales, Barry. I'm sure you and Paul go way back. But first off, Paul, welcome to the show.
Hello, Jane. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like, is there a lot of preparation, hair and makeup gone into this interview for you today?
Yeah, an awful lot of stuff there. I have a designer stubble here at the morning. It's gone just a little bit grey, but it's only frost that's on it. It's not grey hairs now. It's just it's a bit cold outside. There's a frosty morning.
Bit of Wexford frost. Barry, you and Paul, we know Paul's one of the big characters of the game. We know he's always good for a joke, good for a dig. Tell us, how far back do you go?
Oh, God. My first memory of riding a horse for Paul was back in 99, I think it was, a horse called Nibalda. Was going to win in Fairyhouse, and I sent him at the last, and 1, 2, 3, and he went 4, and I went exit stage right. But no, rode lots of Paul over the years, had some really good days. I remember winning on John Call. I would have won a Galway hurdle on him on Curragh, but I broke my nose and my cheekbone in the race beforehand. But no, lots of good days with Paul. Probably the one, just on reflection, that I enjoy was Fitzhenry. So Paul gave me my instructions for Fitzhenry in the Paddy Power in Leopardstown a few years back now. And he said to me, look, when this said, if he hits the front, it's like as if a parachute just shoots out his back end. He just jams on the brakes. So I got running late on Fitzhenry and the Paddy Power, and I'm just getting there about 100 yards before the line, hit the front, keeping going, galloping, and next thing, the famous Jerry Hannon commentary, and Roaring Bull comes by me. So the parachute didn't even get time to shoot out. Roaring Bull beat me. People love that commentary, but I can't say I enjoy it as much.
No, I'm blaming Jerry Hannon for that, because I think him shouting that over the mic, spurring on Roaring Bull as well to catch us.
It felt a bit like that.
Yeah.
I'll say I am guilty of watching that replay and not seeing anything other than the Gigginstown Silks. But Fitzhenry was a character. Paul, you've had some characters down through the years. You surely have a Barry Geraghty tale for us. Do I remember him writing accordion étoile in an article one year?
He did. No, we go back a good bit. You know, I remember Barry went the day with Nibalda, and we went back to Naas. Then I think we ran him fairly quick. We were so disappointed after getting bet. There was a race came up for him to try and keep the lads sweet, and but he won in Naas then the next day. So it's amazing the way the whole thing sort of, you know, you can make up for things very quickly when it just goes right on the day for you. But Nibalda was actually the first winner we ever had. He was bought at the very first Land Rover sale, and I went up with 4 lads with £1,000 each. And as the day went on, they were all making too much, and 2 of the lads got disappointed and went home. So I'd only £2,000 left. So Nibalda was the last horse into the ring, and he was a grey horse by Cambalda out of a General Ironside mare, and he was a little bit towed in and offset of his knees, so he came walking to you sort of a little bit like sort of the opposite of Charlie Chaplin. And but anyway, he cost $2,500, so I had to put 500 of my own to him. But that was him. He won his maiden hurdle in Leopardstown, and he won a couple of handicap chases. He was 5th in Cheltenham, and he was right. He was the right horse.
I love to hear those stories. The going up there, the 4 guys, 2 of them leave. You're left with half your budget, $2,500, and you get a winner 11%. You've obviously you're down in the heart of Wexford, which, you know, I'm a Cork Waterford person. I know we're similar. You're coming from a background where there's loads of pointers all around you, but how difficult is it now to acquire those types of horses? Certainly not getting them for $2,500 anymore.
No, but like, I mean, there are still chances. That's the one thing about this business. Like, there's always chances, and you'd always hear the stories, even still, about the cheaper type horses. And to me, if you go to the sales and they look athletic looking, if you're not reselling them, you just forget about their size. They don't have to be 16.3, and that's basically the market. Like, the point lads won't look at that, and that's under 16.1. And they control an awful lot of the market at the sales, and fair play to them, because they're keeping the breeders going for the last 15 years since the points really start flying. But it's very, very hard to go now, lads, and try and get something. You saw what they were making in Cheltenham at the sales there, even horses that are placed in points, they're making phenomenal money. But the lads, they're giving good money for them as stores, and they're paying lots of staff and stuff as well. So, you know, it's not all rosy either. They've plenty of ones that fall through the net as well that don't get there. But the ones that do get there make plenty of money. But they sort of, the good ones have to make the money for them.
So you started in 1996. As Barry's mentioned, a couple of big names. You've had some good horses. Barry, what are the standout ones for you?
Well, that's what was John Call. Would he be your you know, when your biggest?
I suppose, I'd say John Call. He won the Hennessy. You know, the Philologic won the Racing Post Chase. He beat Champagne Fever one year. Mark Walsh, I think, was Mark's first Grade 1 winner, and he was a very good horse. Unfortunately, he got injured. He probably was a horse with an awful lot of potential. But you know, say again, won a Galway Hurdle. He went on to win a Sordlestown Chase. The same with Accordion étoile. He was 4th in the Champion Hurdle, beaten 3.5 lengths by Hardy Eustace in the famous race with Brevinke and Hardy Eustace and Noel's horse Archibald, yeah. And we were 4th in that. We didn't get into the picture because we came so wide to stay away from the battle. But he won a Sordlestown as well. So, you know, there's some, you know, it's hard to get these Grade 1 horses now, but, you know, there's always hope.
You do look to have, you know, upped your quality a little bit as well, though, Paul. I thought was it a few horses beaten the points, Gin Tonic, Sageburg. the horses you bought privately, but I suppose didn't cost as much as the winners or the fancy ones, maybe, did they?
Yeah, no, they didn't, and we bought a couple there recently now as well, and we bought them before the sales. There was a horse that fell at the last, and a horse that was second in a point to point, and a horse that was another horse that was second. So, we're lucky enough that we have the owners there to put up the money for it, and I mean, so the whole book ends with the owners really. Without the owners, there's none of us have a job. And basically, like, we have to be so thankful to them that they're still putting their money up and to give us a chance of getting horses that are able to get to the festivals.
That is basically it in a nutshell. And we won't spend too much. We've mentioned some of the great horses. We now look forward. This season, you've had a couple of good ones. I think Feet of a Dancer is a very good mare in her own right. The Devil You Know, Iceberg Theory, I Am Lorenzo. You've got a couple of talented horses in the yard. We know how the season has gone. How are you going to finish off the season? Tell us what are the plans?
Yeah, well, sure, the ones that went to Cheltenham, mainly, the Devil You Know is finished now for the season. Feet of a Dancer, hopefully should be entering the mare's race in Punchestown and the Stayers. Iceberg Theory, the Release the Beast, those were 4th and 5th in Cheltenham. They'll go for handicap chases in Punchestown. So there'll be all those ones that they'll be still kept in for the festivals. But we've probably nothing now to run in a the big clubman will probably go to Aintree for the Grade 1 3-mile hurdle. He's probably maybe £8 to £10 shy of Grade 1 level, but you sort of never know. With the like of that, he's a horse. We'll probably put cheap pieces on him the next day, but he's. I think the nicer bit of ground will suit him. We brought him over to Newbury the last day, and a decent horse that Paul Nichols beat him over 2.5 miles. But our lad could never sort of lay a glove on him, and over a further trip, maybe we just liven him up with cheap pieces. I wouldn't mind even again being able to get it up beside him. We'll see. Maybe that wouldn't work, but I think he's just a horse that there's a little bit more left in. But he's the only one really now to partake in a graded race.
Tell us, can you give us any bumper horse you're going to watch for the listeners and the viewers at home? Any bumper horse for Punchestown for the summer?
But we've a horse there that hasn't won yet. He's still a maiden there. A horse called Le Moulin Rouge. He'll probably. Hopefully won't be too far away the next day. We have a couple of youngsters there that are, after working on grass there recently, possibly there's a nice horse there by Goliath de Burley called Big Phil, and there's another nice horse there called El Bilo. So the two of them have worked fairly well, and hopefully they'll run bumpers now in the next couple of months.
Cool. Well, it would be remiss of us to bring you on a William Hill podcast and not mention the William Hill Eachway Extra Challenge Series, where you're currently doing very well this season. We know it's a hugely lucrative series for those who are doing well in it. Is it a series that you've actually consciously targeted, or is it just a case the races came up?
I know. Well, I'd say, we didn't think we had much of a chance in it because it's sort of it's very dependable on numbers really, and we wouldn't have had an awful amount of handicappers, Jane. So, we sort of really got involved in it. We won 3 maiden hurdles, and the 3 maiden hurdles happened to be William Hill maiden hurdles. But the most of the races would have been handicaps, and we wouldn't have had many handicappers. But now that we're sort of there's no catching Philip Rockwell, like he's more than double anyone else's tally. But we definitely look at second place as there's a nice pot for second place as well. So we're hopefully there's 5 races left. There's a maiden hurdle in Bellewstown, and then four races in Kilbeggan. So we'll definitely try to have definitely 1 or 2 in the remaining races to try and get the second pot, which is still a we were just looking at it there. If we finish second and got 25 grand, that'd be more than my percentage for the whole year's training fees from the prize money. So it's definitely worth looking at, concentrating on those last 5 races and making sure that you have something to give you a chance in them, you know.
And would it be something that you're going to focus on for next season, Paul, having done so well this year?
Oh, geez, absolutely, Barry. I mean, there's times when you're, but again, it's about, I suppose, having, you'd want to be concentrating on it nearly a year in advance as regards the handicaps and all in it, to have horses, because there's a good few of the William Hill races that are 0 to 100 handicap races. So, that it's normally nearly second season horses that are going into their handicaps the following season. So unfortunately we haven't a savage amount of them, so you're talking on hopefully having horses good enough to contest the maidens as well next year.
That's and when you put it like that in terms of your percentage and what you could earn from prize money, 25 grand.
Yeah,
It's a fair long way from going up to the Ark of Sale with 2.5 grand in your pocket to buy a horse, isn't it? So
it is. Well, that's it. Like,
it all helps.
At the end of the day, you could buy a horse with it to give you a chance. You could buy a sort of a store there, or a foal or a yearling or whatever. But it's certainly when you look at it in that context, that you if you had 300 grand prize money for the whole year and you get 8% of that, that's what you're coming down to. That you'd want to be after having your 20 or 30 winners, and yet if you finish second in this series, you're getting as much as you would for the whole season.
That's it in a nutshell. I couldn't put it better myself. So I'm conscious we don't want to keep you all morning, because you're obviously a very busy man. There's one question I was interested to get your perspective on, because you're in the game now, 30 years odd. What's the biggest change you've seen in Irish racing in your time?
I'd say the biggest change. What would the biggest change be? I'd say maybe the actual the day-to-day running of the yard, the bookwork side of it. The bookwork side of it in the office has gone insane. It's when you would see the amount of paperwork there for going to Cheltenham, and you'd see the 50, 60 pages of stuff per horse, and it's like that you nearly have to, definitely with 50 or 60 horses riding out now, you definitely want 2 to 3 people in your office just doing the bookwork and stuff like that. I'd say the paperwork side of it is just gone. It's just gone mental.
I can attest to that. I absolutely know all about that. Administration. Well, we hope that you can cling on to second place and collect your check at the end of the season for the William Hill Extra Series. And next year, go all in.
All in, and sure, if we win it, we'll bring you out for a pizza. All ye.
Pizza? Jeez, I don't know about you, Barry, but I like a bit of caviar myself.
But Jane, you're off the team. You're off the team.
It's pizza and then a starting on.
Thank you very
That's
much.
a takeaway one. That's a takeaway one.
Thanks to Paul for joining us. We wish him all the best for the rest of the season, and hopefully he is collecting that check at the end of the season. We look forward to Irish racing this weekend, and if you are too, then don't forget that William Hill have a bet 10 get 5 offer. It's quite simple. It's as simple as it sounds, really. Simply bet €10 on any race this weekend and get a €5 free bet for the weekend's racing. So that's, before we look ahead to our naps and our selections for the weekend, Barry, we have a number of talking points we want to hit on. Where better to start than the most talked about horse in racing, Constitution Hill. Ryan Moore had his turn on him at Kempton in midweek. I thought it was a good performance. There's a number of people picking holes in the performance, saying that he's not a group class horse, and there's a lot of debate about this horse, but personally I thought he gave him a lot to do from the position where he was on the rail, and he quickened up pretty well.
He did, yeah, definitely. He hit 40 mile an hour up the straight, which, definitely a slow horse won't do that. They didn't go quick through the race, and most of the work was done in the last half mile. So the clock probably told a better story than the visuals, if you like. It wasn't obviously as visually impressive there as he was in Suddle. But also Nicky mentioned afterwards how he just felt when he saw him in the ring that he thought he looked big enough. So you could expect there probably to be improvement. The only concern I would have as regards to John Porter is ground. I do think he's going to want it. Like you talk about good to soft over jumps and good to soft on the flat. They're different things. He'd wanted good to soft on the flat, like which is probably only barely the slow set of good or good ground for jumping. So there is a slight difference there in going versus flat and jumping. So I think that would be important for wherever he does go, because that does limit his participation during the summer. He's not likely to be in Royal Ascot or anywhere like that for that reason. You're not going to keep him training all summer in the hope of getting, slower ground. So I suppose it was a good performance. I know he can be better than that. But ground to me would be a big key in it.
Yeah, and I think the connections have kind of dispelled the prospect of a Melbourne in November for that same reason. I thought it was interesting that Ryan Moore suggested that he's no problem at 12 furlongs, 1.5 miles, that he doesn't necessarily have to be this Prix de Cadran 2.5 miler Ascot Gold Cup type, that maybe an Irish St. Leger 1.6 might be up his street.
I'd say possibly as far as he wants to go, because he does have a lot of pace, and he showed that in Kempton, and he shows that at home in his work all the time. Nicky was always happy at 1.5 miles and not wanting to go any further in the short term anyway. So I don't think we saw anything on during the week that would suggest otherwise. So no, I'd say he's probably right, and that has been Nicky's view all the way through.
Yeah, and what I just think is marvellous of the whole saga of Constitution Hill is that this horse has a fan following. The attendance numbers at both Southwell and Kempton when he's run have proven that you don't need gimmicks to get people to go racing if the horses have the fandom. So with that in mind, it was a huge relief for Nicky Henderson to get that horse to win again. He would have had a torrid week having lost the battle, and the veterinary team having lost the battle to keep Sir Gino alive after fighting an infection, after suffering an injury on trials day at Cheltenham. He was a fairly untapped potential horse, Barry. You'll remember the likes of a Valera Mix. You definitely won't remember Edward O'Grady's good horse, Golden Signet. Those horses are remembered for the wrong reasons, because we knew they were talented, but they never fulfilled their potential. And I think Sir Gino fits that category.
I think so too. The performance he put up in the Christmas hurdle, beating Golden Ace by 6 lengths easily, and it was his first run in 12 months. But back to a truest form, as a juvenile, he was very smart, put up a brilliant performance on Trials Day in Cheltenham. Now he was a very good horse, and obviously really highly thought of, and you could hear that in Nicky's interviews about him. And Nico the same, and how much he meant and how much they thought of him. And as you say, untapped, because he was only a 6-year-old. He was only really getting towards his prime. And he would have been a champion hurdle contender had he had the chance to line up.
Yeah, imagine just when Constitution Hill was taken from hurdling, when he couldn't really target hurdling anymore, they could bring in a horse that was meant to go chasing of the quality of Sir Gino. I think the standout performance for me for his career was when he made Ballyburn look slow, and that one start over fences, that was majestic. And let's not forget, this horse's misfortune goes way back to when in 2024 he couldn't contest the Triumph hurdle because the yard had a bug or an issue, and all those horses were withdrawn. So better to be born lucky than good sometimes, Barry.
Yeah, exactly. But unfortunately, we don't have Sir Gino. It's a real pity for everyone. Definitely one will miss.
So we look forward. We look to what we do have on the horizon. Let's first mention the Irish Grand National, because it's a race that I suppose over the Easter Bank holiday weekend in Ireland, it's the major. It's the one that everybody wants to win. Have you had much look at it yourself?
I finally got it on Shut the Front Door.
Shut the Front Door, yes.
Yeah.
Great name.
I've had probably about 15 attempts at that stage. I could have ridden 7 or 8 favourites, not remotely close. I don't think anything in the first 6 until that point. So eventually got an Irish Grand National, and it meant a lot.
Okay, well, let's talk down through briefly. The Jukebox Kid's currently favourite. He's, as we talk, my selection for the race, because I think Ben Pauling has been boxing clever with him. Skipped Cheltenham to come here fresh. I wouldn't be surprised if he, off a mark of 144, is a graded horse in the handicap. Argento Boy, Kiss Will, Soldier in Milan for Emmett Mullins, obvious interest. Would Nicky Henderson run Holloway Queen?
He could do. Now, she's only a 6-year-old would be the only slight concern. So he'd have to see how she comes out of Cheltenham. Obviously, to have ran in the marathon trip of the National Chase would have taken its toll. So I'd say that's a wait and see. But it could be an option for her.
Okay. What do you like in the race?
I thought Search for Glory, who to me had a winning chance when he unseated at the last in the Kimure. I thought that was a big run. A reproduction of that would be good. He was second to Favori de Chamdou in the Paddy Power. He was second also earlier in the season as well to Down Memory Lane in Navan. Just seems to be in better form this season. And obviously that was a good run he was having in Cheltenham. So he's only up £3 since that. So I thought he could be valuable, but it's a very open race. There's a little bit, we're a bit unsure about what's going to line up, and the weights are likely to go up a lot as well. But it's, I thought Search for Glory on the back of his Cheltenham run had a big shout.
Gigginstown, Michael O'Leary's Gigginstown have a great record in the race, but more to the point, Barry, Gordon Elliott is going to throw a lot at this year's Irish Grand National for obvious reasons. At the time of talking, he's in and around 370 grand ahead of Willie Mullins, which is nothing when you're in front of Willie Mullins and he's coming at you like a steam train with Punchestown on the horizon. But there's a €500,000 prize pot for the Irish Grand National, 270 of which go to the winner. So with the likes of Better Days Ahead and, as you say, Search for Glory and a number of other contenders still in there for Gordon Elliott, that will probably make or break his season.
Yeah, well, it'll have a big say in it. If he doesn't fill some of those spots and ideally win it, it's going to put him on the back foot. And obviously Willie, he has to see how he performs in it too. So but Punchestown offers so much prize money. We saw Willie go into it before. He was $500,000 behind, and he came out 800,000 clear. Yeah, so like that was a big reversal, 1.3 million of a turnaround in Punchestown in 2018. So you just never know. And I think the fact that Willie won't, unless like he cleaned up an Aintree last year, especially in the Grand National, that's not likely to happen this year, albeit he has great chances. But the chance of, was it 6 of the first 7 or something he had last year, probably not as likely this year to happen. So he's not as strong then you would imagine in England. It's not going to be where his attention is. So if he's putting his focus back to Ireland, with the wealth of talent he has, Cargill's, Copec de Board, Lossiemouth, King Rascal Grey, Kitzbühel, Final Demand, Gaelic Warrior, Fact of File, Dino Blue. Like Gordon has quality, but Willie has a massive artillery there as well.
Yeah, I agree. There's no doubt Willie Mullins has already raised the white flag in terms of the British Championship. He's 2 million adrift of Dan Skelton. Like there's bar they're going to move the arc to Sandown at the end of the season and he's going to run everything in that. I just don't see it happening. But what will happen is he's got a very strong hand in Liverpool. Paul Townend is going to have a difficult decision to make between I Am Maximus and Grangeclare West. I think maybe he's thinking of other horses as well. I presume Patrick will ride Nick Rocket, last year's winner. At the moment, we think, well, it's been confirmed that Mark Walsh is going to ride Jaguar. John Joe Neal Jr. probably ride Iroko. Oscar's brother is the one I'm really interested in. He caught my eye in the Brown Advisory at Cheltenham. This is, obviously, you and I, we love this race for obvious reasons. If you were to make a selection this time around, who would you be with?
But the National is the National, so you make a selection, you're sticking a pin in it because any of those, you list out 10 horses and you could say that could win. See, you need luck on your side too. So I think a horse at a price, and he's actually just behind Oscar's brother in the Brown Advisory, is Now Is the Hour. Yes. Good winner of the Theastis. Has plenty of experience. Gavin's horse were out of form, coming back into form. He's getting a few pound off Oscar's brother as well, so he's reasonably well treated. But to me, he has the experience, which would be the slight concern for Oscar's brother. Is a very smart horse, but I just like maybe more battle-hardened warrior, if you like, who has that handicap experience. So I think Now Is the Hour at a fancy price could run a big race.
That he's currently 149. Due to carry 10-7. Gavin Cromwell's other runner, Final Orders. He was good to you and I at Cheltenham Final Orders. He would be interesting as well, knowing how good a trial the cross-country race at Cheltenham is for the Aintree Grand National. So there's a number of nationals this weekend. We've got the Ulster National this weekend. But before we talk down Patrick, we have to mention Albert Einstein. There is so much talk about this horse. Aidan's won 10 2,000 guineas at Newmarket. None of them had a race beforehand. None of them had a prep race. But because this horse hasn't been seen since May of last year, I think they're viewing him differently. I was in Ballydoyle last week for a press morning, and when I say he was effusive in his praise of this horse, people will roll their eyes and say, well, he said it about Camelot and he said it about Australia, and yet, but like, you can't ignore the man. His record speaks for itself. So my question to you, Barry, is, as somebody who's listening in and they're thinking about getting involved, do you just watch him in the Gladness, or do you actually back him?
Well, he's short enough, and he's taken on older opposition as well, so he's going to find out, and he's going to learn a bit too. So it depends what your way of betting is. If you're happy to back a short one, by all means go for him. You have to take note. He's not going to. I suppose August Roden was the horse who probably disappointed previously, but then proved himself right afterwards. But it'll be interesting to see. But he's teeing him up, to take on older opposition. He's a skinny price, but he is highly likely to be all he's meant to be, because they will have had a good look at him, and they've had a good look at him in good company. So, this isn't a guessing game down there.
Yeah, I that's the thing that gets me, is that they have Puerto Rico and Pierre Bonnard and all of these, Stad, all these Group 1 winners from last season. And he's still committed that Albert Einstein is better than all of them. Now, I found it quite hilarious. I had a conversation with Aidan about whether or not he'd stay the distance in the Guineas. I didn't actually ask him why he entered them in the Epsom Derby, because that was just a little bit mad. Anyway, he's here. He's running over 7. He's running in the Gladness. For anybody who's thinking of getting involved, just a note of caution. Camille Pissarro ran in this race last year and got beaten before he went on to Classic Glory in France. This is very much a starting point. Aidan has won 10 2,000 guineas from King of Kings in 1998 up to Magna Grecia in 2019. He's the most recent one. But I think it's just fascinating. I hope a few people might go to the Curragh at the weekend to see him. So with Albert Einstein in action at the Curragh, that means that Ryan Moore is grounded in Ireland, and he's not heading to the Middle East. He's not riding in Dubai, and he's missing out on a number of good rides. There is Irish interest there, Barry, though. You had David Casey on the show last week. You mentioned Ethical Diamond, that wonderful win in Del Mar. What are the chances he could take down the world's highest ranked horse by Longines, Calandrigan, in the Chima Classic?
Yeah, what were the chances he could win in Del Mar? Sure, he was a fancy price there, so he's obviously not as fancy price this time. You just don't know. Like, that was such a performance. I suppose the pace in the race is probably the key to him. The stronger they go, the better for him. So he will thrive on a really, really fast run race. So I think that's going to probably be a big factor in it.
I think you're right. It's not a big field. It'll be very tactical. And it's worth noting that Dylan Brown McMonigal is not going to be in action out there. He instead is going to be ridden by Danny Tudhope, we believe. Also want to mention best of luck to the European runners out there, notably Ombudsman, a huge runner for the Goslins in the turf, the Dubai turf. They have a fantastic record in that race. And I'm going to give a quick mention to the French filly Rayevka in the Alquoise Sprint, because I think she's an overpriced filly in that. So only our podcast, well, a number of podcasts can do this, but we're going to go from Maidan to Downpatrick, and we're going to look at Willie Mullins' 2 protagonists in the Ulster National, a big field. Paul Townend has opted to ride Uncle Pat over Fishery Lane, which I think that wouldn't have been a straightforward decision myself.
No, probably not. But like that, it's hard to read between the lines when it comes to the Willie Mullins team. They know a little bit more than the rest of us. So Paul generally gets those decisions right. I know my eye is drawn to Slánach with Galair, Gordon Elliott's runner. So
I just cannot wait to get Sam on in a minute. I'm going to ask him to pronounce that. Do you do that intentionally to the British contributors of this podcast, to get them to? It was Gerv Mahagood a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. If at all possible. Yeah,
yes.
No, I'm in no way a fluent Irish speaker, but I'm obviously a little bit better than some of the lads. So we'll test Sam with that one when we get him on.
The listeners, and we'll look forward to that one. So that is your selection for the Ulster National, sponsored by Randox?
Yeah. I thought stepping up in trip. He did a good run the last day behind Raglan Road at Downroyal. He was third behind Mount Frisco and Gorn on heavy ground. He's winner 2 on better ground before. So the ground is going to be yielding the soft. It's currently yielding the soft in Downpatrick. So it's an improvement on that heavy. I think that's important to him, and the step up in trip as well.
Could bring around a change in form. Okay, well then we go from a big field handicap chase to a big field handicap full stop at Doncaster. Good to soft currently. I wonder what the forecast is going to be in Doncaster for the William Hill Lincoln. It's a notoriously difficult race to find the winner in. I'll start by saying I'm just trusting William Haggis has Eternal Force ready to rock. Obviously, he won the race last year. He won it with Adabe a couple of years ago. Adabe went on to be a Group 1 performer in Australia and in Europe. I think this horse is good, and I wonder he has a high mark of 96. I think there could be more juice in him. So I'm going to go Eternal Force. Are you with or against?
I'm going against you with Labatt. Jamie Spencer's mount. Obviously only a neck second to Arabian Story in the Britannia Stakes last season. Wasn't seen until early in March when it was fourth, and you'd have to say an eye-catching fourth in Wolverhampton. So good to get that run under his belt, having missed most of last season. I thought could be the one here, and Jamie Spencer, who better than him over a straight mile. Yeah,
and the trainer, I think, really announced himself last year as being somebody we have to take very seriously. So that's Labatt for you in the Lincoln. The race before that, the William Hill Doncaster Mile, it's a listed race. Again, Harry Eustace and Jamie Spencer teaming up with Docklands. He's former Queen Anne winner. But I'm going to actually take him on with Curragh. Curragh, we'll all remember for that pacemaking duty he had for Field of Gold in the Sussex Stakes at Goodwood, and he ended up staying in front. I think he's a classy horse, and he may well be just ready first time, whereas Docklands will probably be working back from a bigger target. So that's the William Hill Doncaster Mile, and that's our selections for the weekend, Barry. I'd say it's about time we got Sam Norris on to tell us if we're going to get actual value from William Hill this weekend. Let's get some prices on these horses. So Sam Norris from William Hill has come to join us to talk us through our weekend selections. Sam, before you came on the show, Barry Geraghty and I were chatting about the various nationals, particularly the Irish Grand National at Fairyhouse and the Aintree Grand National Liverpool, and our selections and our fancies for the race. Out of interest, what price is Oscar's Brother?
For the Irish National?
No, for Liverpool.
For the Aintree National. Oscar's Brother has been a horse that we've kind of just steadily laid for the last couple of weeks, really. It started at 20s into 18s, 16s, now 14 to 1 for the Aintree Grand National. He ran well at Cheltenham, didn't he? And obviously it would be a great story. He just trains the two horses, does he, Connor King?
Yeah, that would be a good story, Barry. I think he's going to take a lot of beating. You may pitch yours.
Yeah, I like the horse who just finished behind him. Now is the hour. He finished just behind him in the Brown Advisory. And the reason I would like him is just he has that handicap experience. He is battle hardened too, having won the Tiestis over 3 mile and heavy ground back in January. So, he's 9-year-old. To me, his profile just fits it a little bit better, I think. But his form line is similar. So now is the hour is the one I like. What price do you have on him, Sam?
He's 20 to 1 now is the hour, and you're right. I mean, if he finished basically upsides Oscar's Brother, didn't he, at Cheltenham? There was very little between the two of them. I guess the only worry is, was he a fortunate winner of the Thyestes, with Spanish Harlem coming down in that race. But yeah, he's 20 to 1, which versus the support for Oscar's Brother, given there's not too much between the two of them really on the Cheltenham form, could be interesting. And of course, you're covered by the non-runner money back concession with the Aintree Grand National as well, so you can get involved now. We're already 5 places each way on the race, so if you are having a go, you're safe in the knowledge that should anything happen between now and then, you're going to get your cash back. But yeah, I think his form ties in very closely with Oscar's Brother, certainly on their Cheltenham showing. It gives JP a really strong hand in the race as well. He's got 5 of the first 6 in the Grand National betting. It's 25 to 1. He trains the 1, 2, 3, or he owns the 1, 2, 3 in the race, by the way, which was a surprise to me given such a strong hand he's got. But maybe now is the hour could be one that isn't in the green and gold.
That's interesting, 25 to 1. But then I would have went into Cheltenham thinking that JP McManus was going to have way more winners than he actually did. It sounds, in theory, value, and then you get to the actual big race and you realise how hard it is to get in the first 3 in an Aintree Grand National. Easter weekend is nearly upon us as well. We want to talk about the Irish version, and Fairyhouse is also a notoriously difficult race to have much luck in. Barry Geraghty's already referenced that. I think the Brits, they dominated the handicaps at Cheltenham. I think they get well treated when they come across. Hence, Haughty Glure absolutely blitzed the field last year. What about the Jukebox Kid this time around?
Yeah, as you say, Heitekilor went over, got the prize, brought it back to Britain last year. And the Jukebox Kid, we started betting on this race midweek. And he's the only horse punters have wanted, 14 to 1 into 8 to 1. So a fairly significant move already for the British Raider. Obviously, it is a bit of an ask for a novice. You know, he wasn't stopping over 3 miles at Ascot last time round. He only had a couple of rivals to beat that day. But the longer trip, the hustle and bustle of the field, he's maybe a horse we feel like we could take on. But yeah, the 14s into 8s in the 3 or 4 days we've been trading the race is very revealing. Are you suggesting that the Irish horses aren't well treated when they come over here, Jane?
I'm not making any suggestions at all. Time will tell, Sam.
We need the help
Time
anyway.
will
We
tell.
need the help. You don't need the help.
Oh, we need
think
all
it was
the help
good.
we can get. Barry, do you need help with your Irish national selection?
Do I need help with my Irish national? No, I like Search for Glory. Obviously, unlucky in the Kimure. But just going back to your point as regards the Jukebox Kid, novices have a great record in the race, so I'm sure your traders will be well aware of that. But it's a positive for a novice end of season. It's a big track, but it's a fair track, so it does suit them. But no, I thought Search for Glory, unlucky in the Kimure winning seated at the last, definitely was going to have a big say there. And what kind of price do we have on him, Sam?
Yeah, he's 20 to 1. As you say, he was in the process of running a massive race at Cheltenham when he was 40s, I think, before unseating after the last. And that was much better than the Thyestes effort prior to that where he pulled up. So, yeah, 20 to 1. He kind of hasn't been missed in the betting since that, unfortunate unseat at Cheltenham. But he's probably a fair enough price at 20s. Are you satisfied with the 20 to 1, Mr. Garrity?
Sure, if there's more on offer, Sam, sure, I'd be a fool to say I'm satisfied then, wouldn't I?
Yeah, we always want more in punting, but I think it's a fair price off the back of what he did at Cheltenham, and he's another who looks as though he's got a great chance.
But good answer, Barry. We're never happy with a bookmaker's price. Never admit that. Our Duke actually springs to mind, a really good novice that won the race when he was ahead of the handicapper, a 7-year-old. But more immediate matters is actually this weekend. Barry, you're going to go to Downpatrick. We'll go Downpatrick first. Big handicap chase.
Yeah, so the Ulster National, Sam, and my fancy here is Slán a Guibh Galéir for Gordon Elliott, JP McManus as well. So have you a price and an attempt at his name, please?
I can attempt the name. The traders haven't attempted to price up the race as of yet. Slán a Guibh Galéir?
Oh,
That's good. Not bad, yeah.
Slán a Guibh Galéir. This is a stitch-up job, isn't it? Get the English guy on the podcast and then give him the only Gaelic name in the race. But look, it's going to be one of those races where I think the Eachway Extra is really going to come into its own. We'll have extra places on the race on the day. And fortunately, if anyone wants to follow Barry in, you can bet this online just by clicking or tapping. For the poor punters who've got to write this out on a betting slip in shop, this side of the water anyway, it's going to be difficult. What do you know what it means in Gaelic?
It means see you all. What's it? Goodbye to you all.
Goodbye to you all. Okay.
Yeah.
This reminds me of when Aidan ran Aran Naveen in the Epsom Derby. I think he finished 3rd behind Serpentine. And God bless us, all of the broadcasters were just trying to seek out an Irish person in the media room to enunciate Aran Naveen. Okay, so Barry's gone for the Ulster National. As is typical of me, I'm going to keep the variety in this podcast, and I'm going to go with the Alquaz Sprint, Rayevka, drawn completely the wrong side of the track on her last run in Medan. I think she's got a better draw. Frances Graffard travelling. It's actually left her over there in the interim. She hasn't gone back to France. There's an awful lot of rain in Dubai at the moment, as we know. I think she'll appreciate that. Not every sprinter is going to handle a soft ground sprint. So can you give me a decent price on Rayevka?
Yeah, I mean, after the defeat last time around, which was behind a few of these, the price is a fairly sizable one, 8 to 1 for Rayevka.
Stop! Give me double figures for God's sake.
Why is no one happy with the prices they're getting? This never happens.
Okay, I'm going to take 12 to 1. Thanks very much. Rayevka in the Alquaz Sprint. Barry,
she did have excuses last time around, didn't she? But the thing with the sprint division, layers, we always feel like we can get a result in this division. You always feel like there's a massive price winner just around the corner. But yeah, she's 8 to 1 off the back of that.
Okay. Barry, we'll talk about the William Hill Lincoln. Simple. Let's just take each other on and hope one of us has the winner.
Yeah, I like Labotte. Sam, I thought an eye catcher last time at Wolverhampton, having just been touched off in the Britannia Stakes last season. So yeah, have we a price on Labotte, please?
Yeah, this is the big anti-post loser in the book for us. 4-1 at the moment, Labotte, which I know no one's going to be happy with in a big field race such as the William Hill Lincoln. But you hit the nail on the head, Barry. It was very, very eye-catching in the trial at Wolverhampton last time around. Could have easily won the Britannia. Granted, a bit more luck at Royal Ascot. This looks as though it's been the plan, not been missed by punters. So 4-1. The anti-post loser in the book, but we're offering 5 places at a quarter of the odds as standard in the race, and you can go up to 8 places each way at a fifth. So hopefully there's something else lurking in there for those looking at a bigger price. Jane, you're toward the top of the market as well, though?
I am going for Barry's selection is trained by Harry Eustace. I'm going for the master of Harry Eustace. Harry Eustace served his apprenticeship as a trainer under William Haggis, who won the race last year with Godwinston. I'm going to go with Eternal Force.
Yeah, just right behind Labotte in the betting, actually at 9-2, so only a half-point bigger. Could conceivably challenge Labotte for favouritism, despite the fact that all the anti-post cashes for Labotte. We'll see how the market develops next couple of days, the closer we get to race time. Obviously, you're correct with the fact that William Haggis won it last year, so there is going to be interest in his main representative this time around. Won 3 on the spin, without being absolutely levelled by the handicapper last season. He went up £13 for those 3 wins. He's probably a 100+ rated animal, so maybe a bit of room still to work with as regards his mark. So yeah, the pair of them pretty well found in the betting.
Okay, well that's pretty much it for today, guys. I want to remind our listeners and our viewers that if you are getting involved in the weekend cards and you have a few fancies for the same race, that you can combine them in a racing bet builder with William Hill. You can check that out on the app or indeed on the website online the morning of each day. So you can get building those bets. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast. We've covered a lot of ground, Barry, from geographical terms to variety in terms of racing. If you wouldn't mind subscribing to the channel, if you haven't done so already, you can leave us a comment on the YouTube page. As we run up to Fairyhouse and Aintree and Punchestown, there's a lot yet to happen in the jump season, and of course we will be continuing through the flat as well, so you can get involved with your comments and let us know what you think. Also follow us on Instagram, X, Facebook, all the various social media channels, and as always, for the very best prices, if you haven't already done so, head over to the William Hill app, download it in the App Store if you don't already have it, and as always, please gamble responsibly. See you next week.